with ball. Grayson. It goes towards Owen Ross. Brilliant save indeed. Walsh has scored. Leicester City are in dreamland now. Vardy in the middle. This could be a huge moment. Vardy scores. And it's pandemonium in Leicester.
Mahrez with his left, Albrighton with his right. It is Mahrez. It's a good ball in. Morgan's there. It's in. Leicester City score. It is a captain's goal from Wes Morgan, who lifted the Premier League trophy in May. He might have played a big part now in taking Leicester City through to the quarter-finals of the Champions League.
Lift the trophy to the skies. Leicester City are the champions of the Premier League. 5,000 to 1.
Good evening and welcome back to Blue Titty Glasses for Fox's Den, Wednesday night Fox's Den time, and we have an interesting topic coming up today. So we're going to get right into it, and we want the chat's help with it. This one, we want to see how creative people get in the live chat. So please stick around. Before we get into it all, Neil, what's going on, mate? How are you?
I'm good, but reading chat, I've just realised we've missed a massive trick not having tinfoil hats. We really should have thought about that before doing that stream. That would have made for a good one. So good, but you know me, I love those jokes. So what? Oh, gonna have to do a part 2 of this, baby.
yeah, absolutely. Doc, what's going on, mate? How's things with you?
It's nice. I've done fuck all today, to be honest, mate. Finally, having a bit of break from exams and not constantly having to study. I still have one left next week, but I've been able to relax a bit now. And that's really nice, just enjoying the lovely summer weather.
Absolutely, yeah, it's lovely today. Neil, welcome back, mate. Long time no see. How's everything with you?
All good. Yeah, can't complain too much. Again, as you mentioned, Leicester City wise, there's nothing. And we'll probably get into that a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, normally no news is good news, but no news is the new normal for Leicester City, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Let's see who's here in the chat. Good evening, everybody. Neil says evening all. I'll hear this one out, says John. Spencer, hello to you, mate. Daz, get your tin hats on. Conspiracy. Good evening, guys. Well, yeah, conspiracy theories might come up. So we're gonna get into it straight away. And I'm gonna go around each of the guys, and I'll start with Anil. Anil, there's so many theories online, so many people speculating, because this is what happens when the club don't speak, they speculate. My question to you is why do you think we haven't heard anything from the club about anything other than obviously we had the signings of the youth players, of course, which is positive, but other than that, the manager, a statement talking about relegate. Why don't you think we've heard anything?
Well, I think I probably am the most tinfoil hat. To me, there's something is up. Like the spider sense is tingling. That's the only way I can describe it. Like this is so weird, even for Leicester, who are normally quite a private club. And it's not just there hasn't been any communication now. It's been like this for months. Like we knew we were getting relegated. Van Nistelrooy, the turtleneck's still here, ready to be cut up. But is he staying or is he going? No one knows. It's just for it to be this radio silent, to me, is not good news, as Neil kind of alluded to at the top of the show. To me, I think something very serious is going to go down. Like what it could be, we could, speculate on it, but it could be massive points deduction. It could be the club being sold. It could be something's how, I don't know, King Power's gone bust. Something is, for it to be this quiet for this long, something's brewing, and it's not a good thing that's brewing.
Yeah, I'll come to you next, Neil, because, I see some of the stuff that you put. We're in a group chat on Twitter, and, you are usually, you give the board a lot of chances. You kind of like, you don't kind of naturally, you don't want to go for them straight away. Yeah, or Luke. But where are you at now? Why don't you think we've heard anything? Because it is very strange. I mean, I said in a video the other day, Neil, that when we got relegated last time, we had that internal review bullshit. At least they spoke to us on that occasion. This time, other than programme notes, which only the people in the stadium, of course, read, and even then, not many of them read it because not everybody buys one. Why do you think that it's so silent?
Because they don't know what. Because you take it back, was it 13 years or so now, when the likes of Nigel Pearson was in charge, and the ostrich has come back full circle, where we are sticking our head in our sand and we're pretending like we not know what's happening. So nothing is changing, and they just think the quiet is the best thing to do, when in reality it's just pissing off everybody. Even you've seen this year, I've never seen the likes of John Percy been as vocal as he's been. Rob Tanner's come on, and even people like him and Matt Piper, who have come out on Radio B, when they were talking about things, going, look, something has to change. And they're talking about board level. Even the BBC, who I've had major criticisms of, especially around the year that we were relegated, because a lot of the year it's not the season we would have wanted. No, man, of course not. We're in the relegation zone. So it was, and even they're talking about it. For me, even the most biased of outlets are starting to turn their back. And I think because the board aren't talking, you're hearing people like Rob Tanner and people going, we don't know what's happening either, which for me is scary. There's one thing where you say, trust the process, everything. I just don't think there is a process. And the process is, put your head in the sand and let's pretend like this doesn't exist.
Well, Doc, I'll come to you next, mate. You've got something for us soon. We won't bring it up just yet. But what is, Neil's gone with something's brewing. Neil's gone with sticking their head in the sand. What are you thinking, mate, at the moment?
I'm with Anil. I think something's happening behind the scene. I think maybe, the two decision makers, right, Top and Rodkin, they've shut every single floodgate and just genuinely not told anyone really what they are thinking. Because there's no doubt that they've at the very least made their minds up about something that they likely want to do, right? Maybe some candidates, do they want to stick with Ruud? And, I just don't think they've told anyone really. I think they've kept it so close-knit that nothing gets out, because they are obviously not happy with the state that we treat them, or the way they're being treated, right? I think that's very clear from the statement as well, that the club is not happy with the chance against people higher up in the club. So I think they are hopefully working on something. I believe they have to be working on something, but they've just managed to really close all the breaches, so very, very little slips out, right? It's few and far between we get any realistic rumors. Like think about the contract for the youngsters. Nothing of the sort was rumored, except for when Renistro said he believed they were close. And still then, many of the players that, the Monka question, many of the other players weren't mentioned, like Solasic or things like that.
Which begs the question, why did they sign if they didn't know what their future was going to, who the manager was going to be? So something, you see what I mean? Then they must
get the tinfoil hat out, Neil. This is what I wanted. Yeah.
Do you see what I mean, though? I think it'd be a good point where they must know something, but at the same time, it might not be on their level. I still think that Top has no idea what's going on, and he's just reacting. Something else I thought, when's the last time we had a vote of confidence for a manager? Was it genuinely Ranieri? It's coming up to 10 years ago.
Yeah. Let's see what some of the people in the chat are saying. There's a funny one here. Ty said, listen, lads, Top has been compromised by the Bangkok mafia that forces him to focus on horses and polo teams and this and that because it's under less scrutiny, makes it easier to wash the cash. I mean, I saw today, obviously, he's been engrossed in this polo tournament the last few weeks. I think it finished today. They lost in the final, I saw.
Bummer.
Yeah, what a shame. What a shame. I want to bring this one up. OH Leuven, we spoke about it last week on the channel. They were apparently waiting to hear from Top before sacking Chris Coleman. Apparently the CEO at the club wanted to sack him. They needed authorization for Top and they didn't get it. And now they have had it and he has sacked Chris Coleman. He'll probably fucking end up at Leicester. Yeah, no, I was going to say there were rumours last summer that their current manager might come to Leicester. Let's have a look here. King Power has bought up a Far East biological company and is secretly cloning the Premier League winning team. Outlandish.
Knowing King Power, they'd make sure that they'd clone Wes Morgan, but they'd make him 65 years old somehow, and then decide to play him.
They'd probably clone Yannick Vestergaard by accident instead of Wes. Look, the Saudi takeover incoming. Now, Anil said something's brewing. Anil, did you mean a decision or did you mean something business-wise is you think might be happening?
Yeah, I think it's much worse than a decision. I think it is something like that. For it to be this radio silent, it just doesn't feel good. And like I say, normally these guys, instead of addressing trouble head on, they kick the can down the road and they hide and hide and hide until they can't hide anymore. And then there'll be like a statement saying, FTSE 100 announces cessation of King Power shares. They're not a publicly listed company, by the way, but, you know, in something like that, meaning they're going out of business. And then there'll be a statement on the site going, Leicester City acknowledges that King Power have been placed out of business. Then they just still won't mention anything. So I'm not saying it's necessarily that extreme, but honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. I think there's something up. My personal thing is I think they know there's like a ridiculous penalty coming, like 20 points or something like that. And they just don't want to say it now because if you did, you know, can't bring in transfers, season ticket sales would be down, etc., etc. But yeah, something's up for me, and I don't think it's just a decision. Yeah,
I think, I mean, you can almost bet your ass that something's happening with Nick DeMarco at the moment, right? He's probably working overtime for that case against the EFL. Last time I checked the EFL website, I don't think our share has been transferred yet. This is around this time of year that our share will be transferred from the Premier League. Lux, you're muted. I couldn't hear your answer.
I think it has happened. Maybe it's not been filed,
right?
but it's
happened. Beginning of June. So they'll soon move in, and you can go to the EFL website, see if we have an embargo. Last time I checked, we weren't listed as an EFL club, so I couldn't see if we had an embargo. There was no active ones at the very least. So that's the last time I checked. But that's definitely happening at this period of time behind the scenes. The accounts is getting cleaned up for the end of the accounting period, of course. Last season's looks of thing. Normally, when you see someone wanting to sell a company, right, they'll clean up all the dirty work, cut a lot of cost, and make it, you know, nice and easy for someone to buy. And it's hard to see if that's what we're doing, because when you get relegated, you will obviously cut some cost because you can't afford to be spending the amount you did before when you were challenging for top 8. So, I mean, there was no indication when I looked at the account that they were cleaning up for a sale. I just think they were, you know, preparing to go to the championship, right? Or, you know, adapting to the championship rather. But it's hard to say with a 1-year delay on the accounts, and we'll get into that in a little bit.
Is it true the club didn't give the Premier League the December accounts?
Yes, that is true. They did not give the Premier League the December accounts, as they claimed they didn't have legal right to do that because they weren't there.
What are they hiding in those accounts?
No, they did end up getting the accounts. You know, the accounts.
But they
delayed
asking
about it. Yeah, the thing is, the Premier League wanted to get the accounts in December or something of 2023. And they were like, hold up, we're not a Premier League club. We weren't a Premier League club at the time our accounts ended. You can't be asking us to do this. And then obviously there was a dragged out process that around March ended up, you know, being that they had legal recourse.
No, but we've done it again, haven't we? We've done it again because we're being charged for it. And we wouldn't have been, if it was about the 2023 ones, we wouldn't be charged for that because
that's what we're being charged for right now. The 2023, 2024 accounts.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry, I thought you meant the year before. Sorry. This is where my head's at, lads. Which is more on what Neil said. Joe said, "Evening, lads. Just going to put out there. My conspiracy is that they don't know what they're fucking doing, and we are in the total shit. It's not really a theory. It's more. I think that's what's happening, and that's what I think. I genuinely think that it is. Yeah, they just have no idea what to do next. I think, you know, the fact that we've been linked with Russell Martin and Danny Roll and Sean Dyche, even though people are saying Russell Martin was never going to happen, whatever. There's going to be at least a tiny bit of smoke, right? You know, no smoke without fire and all of that. The fact we're linked with these completely different managers shows me that they probably just don't know where they're going to be going next. They don't know whether to go with the Pep ball down that route again after half the fan base rejected it last season. They don't know whether to go down a more experienced route when half the fan base, you know, rejected Cooper for bringing in the likes of Ayew and Bobby Reid. I just don't think they know where they're going to go. And this is when you need leadership. For me, Top is not a leader. He's not. He's just not a leader. I don't think, you know, you're seeing reports, I don't know the ins and outs, that King Power is failing. You're hearing, you know, OH Leuven were in a mess as well recently, obviously waiting to hear from him. Leicester City, of course, has been in a fat mess for the last 3 years. I just think they don't know what they're doing. That's my opinion. Does anybody disagree with that? I think we all agree on that, right? That they've got no idea. Doc, maybe the one to defend them?
I've defended Susan Whelan a bit. I think she's doing the best she can with the resources.
Yeah, we're talking about the footballing side. The
footballing side. I think they are. Maybe having to rethink the whole approach, right? Because what they did the last time we were relegated, that went really well. But then they lost the manager, and then they made a few wrong decisions in a row, a few crucial wrong decisions in a row. And now I think it's very much, okay, we don't know how much we'll get punished for. Nick DeMarco is working on that as we speak. We don't know like which manager we can realistically get, because Top has been playing with his horses, and it's a bit of incompetency, but also the fact that this decision is a very big decision, right? That needs to be taken, because who will lead our potential promotion charge or whatever the ambition is? So many things at the foundation of this football club have to be decided this period of time, and it's really disappointing because we're on a timer here. We have things to do before the deadline approaches of this accounting period as well. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I think it's incompetency as well, but it's also a very big decision.
Yeah, you mentioned charge. I don't think
I was going to say, Neil.
Yeah.
Go on, Neil. Finish what you're saying. Sorry, mate.
I was like, the only charge we're getting is probably the minus 12 points, let alone a promotion charge.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, this is a fair excuse but he's not bringing in help.
Exactly.
You know what I'm trying to say? It's like, are you fucking stupid?
We've made that point earlier, right, about Rutkin as well. He like, even if he was very competent in a modern football club, he would be overworked with the responsibility he has. So, like, regardless of how good you think he is, he needs more help. He needs competent people by his side. He needs a team around him to do the job required of a modern director of football. And if he's competent or not, he won't be able to do a solid job right now.
Before we, Doc's got something for us, but before we do that, I want to bring this up on screen. So you might have seen it today. Well, actually, it was a few days ago, I think, but it's been doing the rounds today, and it's the Foxes Trust. Whatever you think of them or not, more than that's fair. But we'll see what they said here. So they said the club has remained largely silent since relegation, other than brief comments in the Southampton home game programme and the recent announcement about contract extension for 9 rising stars. Leicester City supporters have heard nothing from the club about whether Ruud van Nistelrooy will be with us from the 25-26 season, and seemingly from his comments, he doesn't know either. There may be valid and legitimate legal reasons for that because of the PSR situation, but we're left in limbo for now. There has been nothing from the club about where they may have got things wrong. This is after a season which saw us relegated on the 20th of April after 9 Premier League home games in a row without scoring, accumulating a meagre points total, and still with 5 games to play. There's been no accountability or responsibility and no indication of what the plan is regarding playing staff and style of play when the Championship season starts on the 8th to 10th of August in 9 weeks. Okay, so one of the big issues raised at the meeting of the, I don't know if it's called the FAB, is it? But they've called it here the Fans Consultative Committee Working Groups on the 30th of April, was the growing disconnect between the fans and the club and the failure of the club to communicate. So if I skip forward a little bit here, so Harry said it was good to read that the minutes accurately stated it was felt that the disconnect between fans and the club was largely due to a communication void from the club. Group members felt unhappy with the lack of communication from senior leaders and owners at the club about relegation and requested a statement from the owners and leaders. And then just to finish it off here, it says, despite the communication void being spelt out to the club in the fan engagement meetings and it being openly referred to in the minutes drafted by the club, over a month later, nothing changes. So, Neil, I know you're not the biggest fan of the Foxes Trust and you think they could do a lot better, but what do you make to that from them?
Well, I don't think they've done much, but I mean, at the end of the day, the problems of the club, I mean, like, again, they're just ghosting. That's what it is. That's texting someone you're interested in and just tumbleweed, not getting a message for months in reply. And I think what's bad, I think the entire fan base, we have to take some responsibility ourselves that we've allowed to get it to this situation. Because I think if this is other clubs, look at some of the clubs on the continent, there would be riots right now. I don't say we don't necessarily go that far, but I mean, we're sort of as apathetic both on and off the pitch. It's pretty crazy. I do get it though. Most people are just sort of desensitized to it. It's like, well, there's nothing we can do, so all right, we'll take it. But I know maybe there is something we can do, but it is awful from the club. That just goes to show that they heard it, they wrote it down, they've done nothing about it, and they don't care. And that's the thing, because there's no consequences for them for not having to, communicate to the fans. I said it before. In my opinion, it's absolutely disgraceful. Someone had a comment earlier, I don't know if you got it started, but they said how under Vichai we were treated like fans and under Top we're treated like customers. I would agree with that. That does seem to be the biggest change. Like before, good times and the bad, we always backed the lads. It felt like we were going on a journey together. Now it's like you are just the number on the database and you can be replaced. So play ball or we'll just get the next ones in. That's how we're all looked at.
Yeah, I mean, Neil, what do you make to that statement that we just read from the Foxes Trust? Because this is something that stands out to me as well. The FAB, I mean, I agree with this. They do it because they have to. I think it's like a guideline of the Premier League that the clubs have to have this program in place. I'm pretty sure half the stuff raised never gets addressed. And I mean, I think Imran is a part of the FAB at Leicester, and I think he was once. I've said it before, so I'll say it again. I think he was once like threatened because of his matchday vlogs, basically, and they said, "Oh, you can't be doing matchday vlogs if you're in the FAB." And it's like, what the fuck, man? So yeah, Neil, talk to me, mate, about everything.
I mean, it's not surprising because it's basically just it's reinforcing what we already know in terms of the club, how they work, how they handle situation. I've known there is an advisory board. I've known a few people on it over the years without trying to. Oh, I know everybody. But with that, I think that the club has always been silent, but there's a reason why John Rudkin is hated. And one of the things I've heard is that when these board meetings have happened, he was supposed to be part of it. Again, this was going back a couple of years ago when I met some of them at Union FS. And the men for some of the Foxes Trust were there as well. One of the things that they said is that John Rudkin attended one meeting, and the one meeting he didn't say a single word. Which is, again, he just sat there kind of like he didn't have any expression, didn't say any words, and people were just like, we're glad he's here, but he didn't actually offer or contribute everything. Kind of left it towards the end. And this was before we won the league, by the way. This was when he was director of football, relatively new to the job. So it's just got worse and worse. I mean, in terms of the Foxes Trust, they're trying, but you're talking about a charity compared to £1 billion company. And there's just a minority charity at that's got no power. So, yes, getting behind them is the case, but you're literally comparing a cruise ship to a dinghy at this point, trying to deal with one another. And again, the fact that John Rudkin, the best thing he's done is stayed in the tunnel when Jamie Vardy came out, because the amount of abuse he's got coming out of that. And I've known that people have not been happy with him for years now, but I've never. And there's always people go, look, they made a mistake in 2016 when they went and got Mendy, etc. But I don't think they have a clue, and I don't think there is really a lot that we can do. But Anil's right. I mean, other countries like France and Italy specifically would have gone round, and they would have been protesting outside the club. I'll be honest, they might have set the club on fire, tried to set fire to the stadium and stuff like that in order to make the point heard. And I think that's kind of, without going off topic, that's kind of a little bit of UK culture as well, where nothing we can do. Oh, well, just bow our heads and get on with it. I think that is just part of the way that maybe the English potentially are as well.
Yeah, I know you wanted to address this quickly, Neil. The comment about John Rudkin, because obviously Neil's just told a story there, and there's a comment from Mark. Why does Rudkin never speak?
Yeah, it's just corporate mentality. It's a funny thing, but in these corporate jobs, when you get like a position that's a really senior, as crazy as it is, the best thing you can do is do nothing and say nothing. Because if you do or say something, if what you do or say goes wrong, you carry the can for it. So literally, the best thing you do is just keep saying yes to the person who's your boss and keep following it and just act as a shield. Then you keep your very cushy job and nice pay. And yeah, you take a bit of flack and pressure from it, but it's better than the consequences. I've seen that firsthand across many times. You see it all the time. You see it in governments around the world, and that's what he's doing here. It's just sad. That's what he's doing.
Yeah,
and that's why he doesn't want to say anything, because he knows if he says anything, it's not going to look good for him.
Yeah, it's just symbolic. There has really been no accountability, right? 2 relegations in 3 years. Yeah. I'm thinking to what happened. I've moved to the city I live in now, one of the bigger cities in Denmark, who have a football team who budgeted for top 6. You know, that's the 24 minutes among the 6 best teams. Yeah, 24 minutes. But the point is here, they had a new sporting director a few years ago. He did a horrible job. He got them relegated with the top 6 budget. You know, he knew the ultras didn't like him, but he still on the final day walked up to the ultras, apologized. I got this wrong, guys. And you know what happened after? He was promptly fucking sacked. Because if you get a club budgeting for top 6 relegated, or a club budgeting for Europe in the Premier League relegated, you should lose your fucking job, mate. I mean, it can't be that much more than that. And to now for Rudkin to have 2 relegations on his CV within 3 years, and there's been no accountability, not even a sorry. It's disgusting. This wasn't Copenhagen, by the way. I haven't mentioned them yet.
Denmark. Yeah. Right.
You're getting
of
Denmark
course.
Bingo. You should get that going.
Yeah,
There's going to be a
we're-
competition every stream from now on.
yeah. Right. So of course, you know, a lot of theories as to why we haven't heard anything. And a big thing at the minute with the club is the finances and PSR and all this stuff. So Doc, with his accountant head on, an accountant from Timu, I think we should call him. I'm joking. Let's bring it. What have you got for us today, Doc?
I made this, I think, a couple of weeks ago when I was very tired of studying for my exams, but I still wanted to feel productive. And my head was spinning about Leicester, right? And the problem is, I hear so much about we're waiting for June 31st. We're waiting for June 30th, rather, because we need to get into July 1st to be able to spend some money, blah, blah, blah. And I wanted to have a look. Is that correct? So I checked first and foremost, how much can we lose? This is heading into the season. So at the end of this season, we're allowed to lose 83 million quid. Next season, which is obviously something we already have to account for because we're starting that accounting period soon, we are only allowed to lose 61 because 2 of the years will only have the 30 million allowed losses from being in the championship. And this was my estimation of what our accounts will look like or currently look like. The problem with this is that's a 91 million loss. And obviously, these are estimations. I think in particular, the interest payable and receivable, don't really look into those. I just took the averages. I haven't looked into that too much. But for these things up here, I do feel pretty confident because there are solid reports on how much we spend on wages, how much we spend on staff, and all of these things. And I've taken all that into account. I've accounted for the BC game sponsorship. I've shared that over 2 years. I don't know exactly how that was structured. We could have gotten the 30 million up right, and that would definitely help these accounts by 15 million more. But the point is, that's a big red. And the big reason for that is the last few years, this one, player transfers out, have been around the 75 million mark. It would be down to 10 unless we sell more people towards the end of the window. The 10 million is from Tom Cannon, of course. And the exceptional cost here, Steve Cooper, that's pure guesswork. It was around 10 million when we lost, when we sacked Brendan Rodgers, but he was paid way more than Cooper and had a bigger backroom staff. So I think it's
the fourth highest paid manager in Europe.
Yeah,
I think at the time.
Yeah, he was incredibly well paid. So it was a huge payoff. But the main takeaway here is obviously this won't be exactly how it looks in a year's time, but we should still be in a loss. And that's the negative, right? And what does that really mean? That means over the past 3 years, we will have lost nearly 200 million quid and we're allowed to lose 83. Is that good? No. Is that a saving grace? Well, deductibles. According to the PSR things, we have healthy losses, which is investment in youth development, infrastructure, community, and women's football. They don't specify this in the accounts, but according to Swiss Ramble, she sent me this when I was asking about it. For the past 3 seasons, it was around 63 million, and that has remained largely consistent. But as you can see, we would need to be allowed to lose, or allowable losses needed would be 116.5 million. So not quite, but that does make the accounts look a little bit better, right? We need to raise 52 million quid before the end of this accounting period. And that's when
Which is the end of June. 3 weeks.
That's the end of June. So that's 2 weeks, rather. That's 2 weeks. And I might be wrong. Maybe we got the BC game money up front. That would be 15 million less. That's still a lot of money needs to be raised. And I'm
just to add to that, Doc, the BC game, it's spread over 3 years. So
it's a 2-year deal. 2-year, 30 million.
2-year deal. Okay.
Yeah, but aren't they bankrupt in the company, in the country that they?
Yeah, we'll see if we even get paid. I saw something about that today, Neil, but not something I've accounted for here. I'm hoping we've got it all paid up front. I've, in my estimation, said 50% the first year, 50% the second year. So, I like when I do this estimation to be conservative. So not to give us be too confident and it turned out to be 50 million in the wrong on the positive side. And we think we're all fine and dandy while we're 50 million in the red. So this is definitely a bit of a conservative number, but I think it's a reasonable estimate regardless. And that's the big issue, right? Obviously, sacking Ruud van Nistelrooy would make this number even bigger that we need to raise. But it's a few million in a drop of 50 million quid that needs to be raised. Surely they won't waste a month, more than a month, because they could have realistically sacked him in April and get another manager in. Surely they wouldn't care about 3-4 million more to this number when it's already at 52. And this is the future, right? For next season as well, because we're going into a new accounting period, we would already have made around 110 million in losses when we are only allowed 61. And with deductibles, that would be 67 million. So even if you go into a new accounting year, you sack him, then you're just kicking the can down the road, mate. You're only really delaying the inevitable. We wouldn't have been 20 million closer with Skip. He is amortized for around 4.6 million a year, according to my estimations. But it's still quite a lot of money, right, for a player a year for the next 5 years when he's been absolutely crap. And this to me is why I'm so baffled nothing's happening, because right now we're in the shits. Next year we're in the shits. Stuff needs to happen and nothing is happening, right? We need to sell players before the 30th. That's the main economic lever we have available to us. And obviously, these are some of the obvious ones. Ndidi with his release clause, Bilal Kanous with his release clause will likely go. These are the transfer market values, and this is what I estimate we could get for them. I think Hermansen around 25 is not too much, but we could even end up getting less potentially, right, if we really need to sell. But these players would raise between 65 and 70 million. So that would get us out of trouble, but they would have to be sold in 20 days. And if I'm not mistaken, the transfer window, it just closed yesterday because of the Club World Cup. So I don't know when it opens again, but right now we can't really sell anyone.
Did Walt pass out his own transfer value in that?
Yeah,
that's
crazy.
The amount of money that he's worth the same as Hermansen. The club would go, oh, let me get the big head boy rather than getting Hermansen for the same price.
It is.
It
crazy.
opens again on the 16th
valuation.
of June, by the way. 16th of June. Oh, yeah, sorry.
So take away 5 more days, right? But still, when you only have a few weeks, it's not just a week. It's about 20 to 30% of the time you have to find suitors for around 50 million. And again, if the BC money is all up front, that's around 30, 40 million we still need to raise. And it's clear that we need to raise money. That's the main takeaway. Because if it's 50 or 40, we are still in the red, regardless of how conservative I make these estimations. And I think the fact that we haven't sacked Ruud yet is a testament to that, because every single outlet is saying we are fearing another PSR charge.
Did you add the 10 million for Tom Cannon into these calculations?
Yeah,
they are right here.
Okay, yeah. So what I would say as well is maybe, Doc, here's a theory. Maybe your calculations are wrong.
They probably are, yeah.
And we are very close to the, to the mark, and we can't sack him yet because if we do, it will take us over. That is a theory that some will have. Maybe we are just about to comply, and if we sack Ruud, we don't. Maybe that there is another theory there. But then surely we can do something like can you not put him on garden leave?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Why can't you do these things, man? Like,
what I will say to this just quickly before we open it up for more questions is, had this number been closer to 20 million, I would have been more, inclined to agree. But the problem is some numbers at the club largely remain the same. I'm looking at the staff cost, which last year was around 107 million. I've gone with that number again because we don't know exactly what Ruud and his boys are making. It might be a bit less again, but I want to be conservative here. The administrative costs, they haven't changed in years. They are still around the 26 million. And, the wages, they've all increased when we've gone back up to the Premier League. So I feel pretty good about the turnover, except for the BC game deal, unless there's something happening that we just don't know about, right? Unless they found a way to get 10 million more to the club, it could be the case. I think the big worry they have is they are sitting in negotiation with the EFL about the penalty. And if they go out and spend money now on a new manager, sacking another manager, it would look worse in those negotiations or trial that Nick DeMarco or whoever is responsible for doing. Because if you go out spending more when you're already in the shits, the EFL, maybe they're able to impose a business plan. I haven't read through all their rules. I'm not that much of a lunatic. But I think it has something to do with the legal proceedings with the EFL and Premier League currently. That's my best guess. Because, something needs to be done about this amount. Because, there's no doubt we'll sell players. And I think some of them will have to be sold before the deadline.
Yeah.
Good. Let's just say thanks, Stuck, for putting this together. And I also liked how you just had the TLDR, not good.
I was pretty woke up when I calculated those.
That's positive, not good.
Yeah,
it could be worse. That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
No, I was. Have you got a bit more, Doc? Sorry, I thought you had a bit
that's more just general EFL against Leicester. I've read through all those things and discussions that Nick DeMarco's had for us, but that's for another show if we have the time over the summer, and for a different presentation for a different day. We can definitely go into the accounts deeper and why I think the numbers are as they are if there is interest in it. But this was just a brief overview to say that I think we're fucked. And I don't get why a couple million more would make that big of a difference when we need to raise money. But maybe there's
And
something, I don't
trust
know,
me,
maybe
people-
Susan Whelan is good.
When Doc's saying we're fucked, trust me, because I was like having a go at him a couple months ago because he was trying to be optimistic about the accounts and the finances, and I said, Doc, you're deluded. We're fucked. And now obviously he's done some more research, and yeah, he also sees we're fucked. But
Can I be honest as well, just about
yeah,
this?
go on.
And this is again brilliant. The numbers and everything. I think it's really important. I hate that football's become about this. I
Yes.
want to
Yeah.
talk about transfers. I want to talk about this new midfielder that's coming through our academy. I want to be talking about what we're better. And Neil's face is lighting up about, are we going to play a 3-4-3? Are we going to play a 4-2-3-1? Are we going to invert the winger? That was great fun. All this, it's not, and it's again, this is nothing, Doug, nothing but love towards you. But I hate that football's become like, and it's not your fault. It is the 100% the club's fault, and the way this is ran, and PSR, and when we went down to the ground, when we started supporting this club, we didn't go, I wonder what the finances are like. The only football that really matters was how much does the ticket cost and how good is the atmosphere.
It
That
shouldn't
literally
matter
was
to
it.
fans. Fans shouldn't care.
Yeah.
About the money. PSR is killing football, and when you I know there's reasons for it, but when you see United lose all this money and then spend 100 million on Cunha and Mbuemo, I mean, Anil, let me ask you this, mate. Right, so if there is an embargo, that doesn't just happen as soon as EFL publish it on their website. Like, the club will be aware before anybody else that they have an embargo. Maybe they've been told. Maybe they've been told you are getting a transfer embargo, and that's why they're not. Because if you were told, Anil, you can't sign a single player this summer, would that change your opinion slightly on whether Ruud should stay or not? Because for me, is there any point in bringing in a new manager who you can't back, you can't give any new players to? Maybe if that's the case, they think Ruud's better off staying if it's the same squad.
Well, that's why there was that rumor of Brian Barry Murphy, is that his name, being promoted to be the manager and getting Ruud out. So you don't really bring in a new manager, but you point from within. So personally, I would still be in favour of that, because I just feel that, like, we've mentioned it several times, just the way that Ruud handled it. I've said this before. It wasn't the results. It wasn't the relegation. It was the performances. And actually from him, I think just the way that he managed the situation was awful. Like, he just gave up after about 3 games, right? He should have done different things. Like, for example, say against Brentford, when we lost 4-0, he threw the players under the bus. Now, they were awful, but I think a better manager would say something like, look, this is a really difficult defeat to stomach. I'm really unimpressed with the individual mistakes that we've made as a team, but we're not giving up. There's still plenty of points to play for. I'll have to have a long think about it, and it's going to be a long thing, but we're going to try and get through this. You could say something like that, where you're still basically saying, look, I'm working with fumes of air here, right? But I've not just completely thrown it in, but he did throw it in. And I do, you can sort of understand why. When he's like, if they're defending like this, I haven't got a hope in hell. But you just can't be like that, especially when you're getting paid millions of pounds to manage a football team. It's like a dream job for many people. So there's that aspect of it. But then, coming back to it, I remember Stefan Borson on TalkSport, whether you do or don't agree with him, like, he was basically saying, look, if I was Leicester, I should go to the EFL and the Premier League right now, and just make a settlement right away. Go, okay, look, we'll play ball. We'll take the -8. We'll take the -10 right away. If we can just sign and seal, get it delivered. We'll pay the fine, pay the penalty, and it's a clean slate that way. We don't have to go into some legal mumbo jumbo or whatever like that. You're right. Obviously, but I don't know, try something like that. That could be your reason for the silence as well. Yeah. So this is, I think, is TLDR for Leicester, is that, no one expects perfection, right? And for sure, the reason why the fan base is putting up with this at all is because we achieved the miracle. We've seen some of the greatest things you will ever see, right? So for that, we're stupid. We do remember that, right? But I do think it's stupid from them that they don't use that good favour, because this good favour is running out really, really fast. And I said to you before, I think it's the beginning of the end of King Power already, unless they really drastically change something. And their behaviour at the moment does not suggest that that's going to
I'll just
get worse.
I very much shortly want to add something. Sorry, Neil. It's about the fact that if we stick with Ruud now, I would not be mad at Ruud, but I'd be so fucking pissed at the board that they've wasted 1.5 months where we could have been looking at free transfers. We could have been preparing the players. Ruud could have been thinking about the opponents. And he's just walked around in jeopardy. I mean, obviously, I'd be mad at the fact that if we ended up keeping Ruud, he's not the manager I prefer. But if we've wasted so much of our time for them to just say, all right, we're sticking with Ruud, why didn't you confirm that to him 8 weeks ago then? 6 or 7, whatever, we were relegated. He could have had so much more time. And
the
you know, I
fans.
think I read it in a Rob Tanner article as well, right? I think he said that Ruud had lined up, you know, been talking with potential free transfers and stuff. And obviously that was slipping away, because if he can guarantee that he'll be the manager and he'll play them, why would they want to come to the club, right? Like, we're losing chances, we're losing time, and Will Still, a great manager, is currently getting Southampton ready for a promotion push. And we're sitting with no manager and are waiting points deduction. And if we get that points deduction and then say, hold up, we'll stick with the manager, what are we doing? Just to liquidate the club then? Like, what are we doing?
And the fans, you know, could have been told earlier, because you best believe, let's say on the 1st of July, I'm just pulling a date out of thin air. Let's say on the 1st of July that it's announced Ruud is staying. The negativity and toxicity is going to be through the roof. And if you told us that earlier, it's you know, you've got there's longer time there for fans to accept it and realize what the situation is. But can you imagine going into pre-season with Ruud van Nistelrooy as the manager with this squad? I'm just like, oh my God.
Why it can't be allowed to happen. But just quickly, this is part of the conspiracy theory. So I don't know if you read this news article this week, but there was some woman that was working for a company and she was stealing from the account, and she stole over £350,000, and she spent most of it on TikTok credits. You can't make this up. But what they found with a kind of spending behavior is that she started by swiping like the few sort of thousand here or there. But at some point towards the end, it really sped up massively. She was like stealing like 50 grand a month. And what happened is that at one point she was asked by the bosses, they were like, well, we projected a profit this year, but we're showing like a slight loss. What's going on? Right. And she basically done a Rodkin, said nothing, went back home, withdrew another 100,000 and then just quit. And what I'm saying is it's almost like if you know that disaster's around the corner, you have like a fight or flight response. And some people, it might be, well, I'm just going to play polo, enjoy myself, and I'll deal with the shit show in a few weeks' time. I just want to enjoy myself before I get absolutely, you know, sent to the cleaners. I hope I'm wrong, but it wouldn't surprise me if something like that is the case.
I think it's even worse. So you're right. There's a fight or flight. I think there's a third mode, which is freeze. And I think we've just frozen. We don't know what we're doing. So we just freeze. Like, okay, if we don't move, then it will go away. And we'll wake up from this nightmare and everything will be done. But life doesn't work like, especially business doesn't work like that. Can't run your business and just go, taxes, what are they? I just got to like cover your eyes and pretend like it's not there.
Yeah, and I think the people online who are defending the top, especially like saying, "Oh, is he not allowed to enjoy a bit of polo in his free time?" It was like that's not the problem here. Like, you know, the polo in isolation is not the issue. No one's angry that Top is playing polo. It's the fact that there just seems to be nothing going on. I think Owen said it on Radio Leicester the other day. I think he said it feels like a dormant club. That's what it feels like. It feels like a dormant club. The lights are off. Nothing's happening. Rodkin's probably on his holiday on a sunbed somewhere. His house, I don't know if you know. Oh, I told the story. Neil probably doesn't know this. Apparently, he's moved house 3 times in the last year because it keeps getting egged, by the way, Neil. And now he lives in the countryside. No word of a lie. This is just what I've been told. Apparently, now he lives that far in the countryside, he has no signal on his phone.
That's why we don't get the deals done.
This is the true conspiracy.
Say that we don't do anything, we bring eggs, and we're not making a cake.
Yeah, which of course we're not.
Exactly.
Look, we're not. Yeah, we're not encouraging anyone to egg anybody's house. Of course not. But I'm saying it's. I did laugh when I heard it. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, you brought this up, Anil. I mean, yeah, if we don't move, the T-Rex can't see us. That's what it. That's how it seems. Yeah, JC put a comment earlier in the stream saying Seagrave only has 3G, so that's why there's nothing happening.
Well, not just Seagrave, it's the actual King Power Stadium itself. You can't get any signal in there.
Yeah, that really winds me up. That does. Every other stadium in the country, you got Wi-Fi for free, but not Leicester City.
You have to pay for it.
No, you can't even. You can't even.
I'll say, I'm going to be honest.
There is one way of getting it, and it's if you know somebody that works as the
Yeah,
staff.
that's the only way.
Look, I'm going to be honest. I miss when like the stadiums don't have Wi-Fi. I think it's especially you go into the game and you just disconnect from like the outer world. and you're just locking on the football match, and you're
Let me tell
only
you,
there.
Neil and I have met a few times after matches, and basically because there's no reception, it's ended up taking us like an hour.
And see,
You're
that's
like,
a different story, right?
I'll meet you outside gate 23.
Literally,
and then,
it's just
Yeah.
I'll meet you outside fan
Yeah.
zone after the game. No matter
Yeah.
what it happens, that's what you do, and that's the only way of doing it.
Fair enough. I can see those
doesn't work.
issues, but I do like the
But-
fact, like when you go into the football, it's just football. There's nothing else.
Yes,
I
but we're
think it's
talking
because
about
Neil was
PSR.
buying eggs, by the way. That's my pet theory. That's why he was late.
No, it was From where? Nobody would sell them around. You have to go Morrison's, which take you another 45 minutes. I think part of it as well is that the disconnect from football. It feels like our owners have disconnected from the club. So that's literally how the analogy at the moment. It's okay to disconnect, but the problem is we can't disconnect because we're too bloody talking about PSR. We're talking about balance sheets. We're talking about these decisions that should. I just want to be. How much can we spend? Let me see. Like it should be like fantasy football. What formation? How can play up front? And how much can we spend on this particular player and that particular position? The rest of the other bits that it just. There's never the reason why you go to the pub to talk about the game afterwards as well. You never say, well, we're in financial problems here. Oh, we've got people getting fired and stuff. But again, money's become so important, and it never was. But there's a generation of fans that are growing up just caring about what's the point deduction, etc. Sure, but it's more about how things are being processed rather than what is happening on the pitch.
Well, 100%. I mean, I always say that I have sympathy with the club and board for the first PSR issue, the 22-23, right? I have sympathy because it creeped up on us. We budgeted for 8th or 7th, whatever it was. We were being ambitious. We had a fucking awful season, and then that's it. That's fucked us. But I'll say it again. I say it every stream nearly. When you've got the PSR magnifying glass on you, why go and spend over £15 million on Connor Cody and Harry Winks, and give them 80 grand a week and 90 grand a week, whatever it was? Why would you do that? What are you thinking to do? That's what I don't have any sympathy for them at all.
Yeah, that was arrogance. They knew
was
about
arrogant.
that Marco thing, and they thought we're just you can't relegate us. You don't know who I am, sort of thing. That's what it stinks of. And now they're paying the price for it,
the
in my opinion.
victim.
Yes,
I don't understand you do that, and you still play the victim. It makes no sense. It's like a bully, but then as soon as the bully goes, well, what you got in your hand? Money. And they just crumble and fold, and every message that comes out is about how we are the victim, and it's like, get a grip.
Bang on, Neil. Bang on, mate. Yeah.
And this is what I was going to say as well, right? That the lack of communication also takes away any possibility of like a siege mentality, because when the club came out in 2020 last year, 2024, when we're in the championship, and you know how they came out fighting a little bit, and you could say now rightly so because we escaped that one, right? That one. I was like, yeah, go on then, fucking give it to them. Like, you try and fucking throw this at us. The club were clearly fighting. They were speaking to fans, saying this is the situation. We think it's wrong. We're going to challenge it, right? And a part of me was like, yeah, you know what? Even though you've done wrong here, I'm with you. But now there's none of that. There is none of that, which means that there's so many fans out there that would love to give a little bit of sympathy to them, but they're just not going to, because you're not talking to us. Why the hell would we want to try and give you anything? So that's frustrating.
And if you're not talking, at least do the dodgy shit that Chelsea have been doing. You know what I mean? I don't like it. I've said, piss off, Chelsea, with the way that you're dealing with it. But I can't lie. I'd love my club to do it. I would love for them to go and sell the women's club to Power King FC, as an example, and just make a new company. And there's loopholes, and there's other teams that have showed you that it can work. But we choose to do it in some cases, as you mentioned, Locks, with the likes of Harry Winks and Connor Cody, and then we don't do it in others. And it's just, there's no joined up thinking, there's no logic, there's no values. And that's what we used to stand behind the club and get behind the values and what they stood for. And the values at the moment is happy birthday, because that's all we're seeing from the club over the last
Gary Taylor Fletcher.
Yeah, legit.
I mean, Doc, give me your thoughts on this one. I mean, look, the reason we budgeted for 8th was because we had the 8th best squad. Maybe we had higher than that. You could say we had the 6th best squad, to be honest with you. Like Arsenal were in that weird period of time where Arteta was still building it and they were a bit shit with all the old players, right? We had definitely the 8th best squad in the league. The problem that season was the players gave up, the manager gave up, and the board kind of gave up. They didn't sack Rodgers. Do you know what I mean? When they should have. So, but yeah, talk to me, Doc. Do you have? Is your sympathy for the club fading? That's my question to you, because I just spoke about that. Is it fading because of their treatment of the fans?
Yeah, I just think they're treating us wrong. I think, as someone who knows a scary amount of every single legal proceeding we've been in with the EFL and the Premier League, the two things they have tried to charge us for, one of them you have a lot of sympathy for, the relegation that all just completely fucked us over, right? And we were budgeting, I think rightly so, to reach the higher ends of the Premier League. I don't have sympathy for the fact that we spent that much on Connor Cody and Harry Winks, which helped us breach. But at the same time, the Premier League and the EFL tried to charge us before that accounting period here was done, where the club quite clearly had a strategy of saying, fuck it, we'll be in the red, but when we get promoted, because we will get promoted with the squad, we'll have time to make up the loss before the end of the accounting period. And that's when the EFL and the Premier League tried to say, no, fuck you, we're predicting a breach, we'll charge you before the end of the season, and you'll miss out on your automatic promotion because we hate, I think that was unwarranted, and we were right in saying that, we were right in fighting that case. And so I think the EFL have really tried to fuck us over alongside the Premier League, but at the same time, you should have not signed Connor Cody and Harry Winks on that much money. That is still stupid, although I do understand the mindset of saying, if we can just get out first year, we have time to make up for it in June. And that's when the whole issue started, because the EFL tried to say, no, you don't have time. We predict you will breach and we'll try to charge you now.
Just to clarify here, the reason for because our wages to turnover wouldn't have been 116% if we finished 8th and had, or 7th and had European football. So, it wouldn't have been that. It was 116% because we finished 18th and got relegated. Or 17th or 18th? Did we finish 18th or 17th?
And because we finished
18th or 19th.
And because we finished
18th,
one didn't get Europa League football as well the year. So it's 2 years in a row, right? That really hurt us.
Yeah, that's it. Let me just go through a couple of comments here. So we are being punished for competing. Initially, yes, Mr. Stout. Initially, that first one, but the club have failed on all bases since then.
We couldn't compete for the bottom 6 last year, let alone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Trying to compete with the big 6 under current PSR rules is like showing up to a Formula 1 race on a bicycle, only to get disqualified for having slightly overinflated tyres. Believe me, Forest Villa will be this. Well, you've already seen Newcastle.
Newcastle. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say Newcastle. They didn't get top 4 2 years in a row. I know they got it, but they didn't get it 2 years in a row. Villa didn't, and so this is why it's so difficult. You saw Villa. They finished top 4 and then had to sell Douglas Luiz. In what world does a club like Villa finish in the Champions League and then still have to sell in order to
revenue doesn't
comply?
come in right in that accounting period. So, I guess it kind of makes a bit of sense. I think my main takeaway is we have fucked up a lot, but the Premier League and the EFL have been trying their hardest to do anything they can to punish us. And I think they've gone too far in some instances, trying to force, we're predicting a breach, we'll try and fuck you over this season and make you miss out on the guaranteed Premier League revenue you have just about secured yourself at the end of April last year. I think it's clear that when we cheated out of them the first time, not having to give them the business, not the business plan, but not having to give them our books when we got relegated from the Premier League and kind of disappearing, because that's the thing, we kind of stopped communicating with the Premier League when we dropped out. And then, when they were like, oh, we want to see your books, we're like, nah, I wasn't a Premier League club at that time. So we have definitely been, a bit cheeky as well with them. But damn it, have they tried to fuck us over for it. And now, after a few years, right, they finally managed to close their own loopholes and be able to punish us for the 2023-24 season.
The thing is, though, right, is that we all know that we are being punished for that, but that does not excuse the lack of communication with fans.
And that's the problem,
the thing,
right?
That I cannot. We just said at the start of the show where we can accept mistakes, we can accept when things are unfair against us, but it is unfair to treat your loyal fans that have backed you through thick and thin like absolute shit. Pardon my French, but it's got to be said. It's absolutely outrageous the way that they treat the fans at the moment. And compared to the really loyal fans, I'm a very minor part of that. I'm not these people that are spending a lot of money on the season tickets, buying the kit every season, going to all the away games. Those guys,
Jack,
why are they getting screwed like that?
Jack, someone like Jack, every game.
He's
I
got a
heard
fan channel even, right? How much more loyal to the club can you be, right? And his reward, that's my theory. The reason why he's lost so much weight is because that's what Leicester City do to you. He's so stressed. But fair play, what an amazing job that he's done. But it wouldn't be surprising me if that's partly responsible for it. But yeah, like I say, I mean, look, just be open and honest, right? And say this, they could do it. Like I say, if they have really good leadership, they would turn it into siege mentality. That's how they should come out. They should come out fighting, big dicks, saying, look, this is the Premier League. It's outrageous because we had the cheek to win the Premier League with a squad that cost 31 million. And now we're trying to be competitive and we've been punished. Where's the Man City? You could word it like that. And so many people, but even you get neutral fans going, yeah, go on, Leicester, stick it up the Premier League. You're right. Why are we getting dicks for this when everyone's trying to be competitive? But instead, and then again, with the tin hat theory, those that I think we probably have done some dodgy stuff in the background and they didn't want to get kind of found out on it. But I think all the clubs are doing it. Like Chelsea have done dodgy stuff. Forest have done dodgy stuff. So it's just like, and to be honest with you, I hate to say it, but that's like real life as well, to be honest with you. I mean, not being funny or anything, but King Power, a lot of rumours that the way that they got their monopoly of the, duty free in the Far East. Well, let's just say, you don't become billionaire by being Mr. Nice Guy, right? So everyone's got skeletons in their closet. But as I say, for us, the fans, they're missing the point of football. Don't treat it's a power that you have that you don't have in a regular business that, you can then, maybe there's one business I can see it with Apple. I don't know how they do it, but their fans will basically just buy anything, right? They're so loyal to the thing that you can get away with madness kind of things. So we're going to sell you this VR headset for £4,000 and people will be queuing up to go and get it on day one sort of thing. So it shows you again that someone who knows the power of their brand could use that to their advantage. So yeah, sorry, there's a bit of a rant there, but
part of the brand is the reputation. And I think especially obviously 2016, you could see that we were loved all around the world for what we achieved in our story. You'd be surprised the amount of people that would go, do you know what? I don't like Leicester. I'm not a fan of Leicester anymore. A lot of championship clubs, a lot of Premier League clubs, a lot of people that are competing towards the bottom go, Leicester dodged a bullet, and yet they weren't meant to pay. So you'd be surprised how much the reputation is tarnished, not just from a fan's perspective, because obviously that matters what it is, but from an outside perspective, a brand, people that don't know the brand and know the behind the scenes are also thinking, yeah, do you know what? They're not run really well. Then they aren't in a good position. So I think that I think it's interesting to ask championship fans and go for the next time. And when you speak to championship fans, especially Locks, ask them what their opinions of Leicester City are. They go, well, I like 2016, but it's been shit ever since because they don't like the way that we've moneyballed the league, etc.
I mean, drawing comparisons from Anil's Apple analogy, I was going to say it's like an Xbox versus PlayStation. There's so many Xbox. Anybody who's into consoles and stuff, Xbox have been fucking awful for the last 10 years, and I am not a blind. I don't have blind faith in things, so I actually picked up a PlayStation recently and I ditched my Xbox. But my point is that there are still people out there who blindly support King Power or the current owners. And I think people need to realize this isn't the same leadership, this isn't the same ownership as what it was 10 years ago. It's just not, And, I'm going to use one example here and people might not like it, but Nottingham Forest. And the reason I use them as an example is, look, there's so many clubs out there, so many fans out there now, neutrals, who fucking hate Forest because of Marinakis and how they've acted recently. You saw them write to UEFA the other day to try and banish Palace from the Europa League. But I guarantee you that Forest fan base, mate, they are united. They are united in that siege mentality. And I would love something like that right now in the Leicester fan base. And we don't have it because they don't talk to us. And that's the problem here. But yeah, right. Last couple comments. The sponsorship is seriously under question. First time saying it, but KPR, and this is it. There will be people who today could never dream. They will say, like Manny, for example. He'll always say, "I will never be King Power out." But you wait. If this continues, people will turn. More people are turning as time goes on. It will happen because of the way they're treating people.
Yeah,
Anything to go on, close us up. Close us up, Doc.
I'll say shortly. I think the club's communication about all of these PSI issues have been absolutely shambolic. Because if you sit down and you have too much time to waste reading through every single legal decision that has been made between the EFL and the Premier League, they have definitely tried to break rules to fuck us over. Like, we are not solely the victim because we did lay our own bed. Now we have to sleep in it. But at the same time, we are also being, I don't want to say witch hunted, but being obsessively hunted by the EFL and the Premier League. And the club have failed to communicate that, and they've failed to communicate multiple other things to try and address this issue and make sure we won't be laying our own bed to sleep in again because it's horrible. And I think, I mean, yeah, it's hard to sum up. I think the PSR things, we've made mistakes, but we are being unfairly treated in the process, the Premier League and EFL. But we are doing the club is doing a horrible club at being a good club, at everything else, right? At being a good club to us fans, to our manager who's waiting in limbo, to the people who spend their hard-earned money to go and watch the game. All of these things will be like, the club is just horrible to us. And that's why even when we are a bit the victim in some of the PSR things and how the Premier League wants to punish us, we don't have any sympathy because they are treating us like fucking dog shit.
Yeah.
Can I just say quickly on that? Notice that still, right as now, we haven't unified as BTG to say King Power out, sell the club or anything like that. We've even made enormously long videos and presentations on here's what we think you should do. Like, here's how to improve the club, right? So there's still a bit of an olive branch, I think, coming from the fan base, right? But as Lox has just said, right, it's only headed in one direction, and it's headed with. I brought up a comment from Dalbster earlier, but during the David Pleat era, it has happened before. The fans have had enough, and they have protested en masse against the ownership. And you know, you're making your bed right now. This is how it's going to end up. You know, no one wants it to be that way. We've said it before. We don't actually. I think our view on BTG is that we don't want King Power to sell. We want King Power to fix it. That's what we want, right? But they're not making it easy. They're not making it easy. Yeah.
This is a thing, Anil. I think every Leicester fan would probably. Well, no, we would. We would rather we're successful under King Power. Yeah. We would all. That would be the dream scenario. We are successful again under King Power. But the problem, I think, is majority of fans don't see that ever happening under Top. They don't see us ever being successful under Top. And, you know, time will tell whether he sticks around long enough for us to find out. I've got a feeling he won't. I've got a feeling that he is probably looking maybe for out, looking for an out. But it's difficult to sell the club when you've got a points deduction, transfer embargoes, and all of this shit hanging over the club. So yeah, right. We're going to end it there. Thanks to Neil, thanks to Doc, thanks to Anil. Much appreciated. Thanks to everybody in the chat as well. We will be back again very soon. We'll have a news video out tomorrow at some point. But yeah, let's end it with this comment. Frankie, Top doesn't have the balls or brain cells to fix it. There we go. We'll end it with that. Right. Cheers all. Enjoy the rest of your evenings. Thank you guys. Much appreciated. See you soon.